Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Well, people's behaviour and attitudes towards money has always been an interesting topic of conversation. So much so that my final guest, Hugh Massie from DNA Behaviour, is helping wealthy entities to identify their money behaviours and what impact these behaviours can have on an organisation. Hugh joins us now to share his insights. Hugh, we'll be delving into your belief that behaviour makes money. But first, I'd like to hear about your career and what brought you to Sydney, Australia from Atlanta, Georgia.
Karl, it's great to spend some time with you this morning. So I've had a very interesting career, Karl. I call myself a reformed accountant, and I started life as a chartered accountant. That's what you call it in Ireland. In America, a CPA. And, I did 10 years of that working in Sydney and Southeast Asia, and then I decided that I wanted to spread my wings and build my own business and brand. And I could see that, what I wanted to bring to wealth management, which is what I branched out into by setting up a wealth management firm, was to personalize the experience. And I'd intuitively been doing that in the way in which I'd worked in Arthur Andersen, the accounting firm. And, I think in that journey, then between the accounting firm and the wealth management firm, I started to see that when people are under pressure, they behave differently, and what put them under pressure was money. And I asked a psychologist about it one day, and she said, it's the fact that people have a natural hardwired behaviour, and it lasts, they're varying enduring traits. It lasts for a long time, in terms of how people make decisions. It reveals itself when people are under pressure. So, Karl, that's what then took me on a journey to America.
I did hear the saying years ago that positions of power, they don't change people, they reveal them. Is it the same approach when it comes to money? That money doesn't actually change somebody, it just reveals the person?
Absolutely. I think that money and the energy of money, which is a lot of what I talk about, and the stress of it, which sometimes is we're not always conscious of, whether you have a lot of money or don't have a lot of money. It brings out your innate, almost, if you want to call it, animal instincts, and that's, who you are and how you make decisions under pressure. And that's really, in a way, if we're going to help people make better decisions, that's what you want to know.
Now, you were working with a lot of high net worth individuals in Australia, but what behaviours were you witnessing from these individuals when it came to the subject of money?
People go back to their innate behaviours. So you see with some, when they go back to that they, might earn a lot of money, but it's also into very lavish living, expensive cars, big houses, usually a lot of debt that goes with that. So you'll see that behaviour come out. But also I could say that I've seen clients with a lot of money, and we're talking, 10 million plus or 20 million plus, still thinking that they haven't got enough money to retire on. And they are hamstringing themselves in terms of living a quality life because they're that way wired, and they just can't get out of their own way.
And Hugh, why is money a subject, and where does that come from?
It's something that's, in a way, it's been put by society in the same level as politics and religion. It's something you just don't talk about. But I think when you really get down to it psychologically, people feel judged in money conversations, that they look at themselves, well, I've got this amount and that person's got more than me, so I'm not as good as them, or I haven't been as successful. So the problem with money is that people's success has a lot of the time been tied to how much money they've got, when really it should be more, success should be more redefined about what's your human impact and how have you helped people. And if in doing that you've made a lot of money, great. And it can be talked about in that context. But I think the real mental issue with money is that people are comparing themselves to others, and that's where their self-validation is coming from, which is incorrect.
And how do you go about developing that mindset and getting that healthy balance between having sufficient money and, on the other side, making a human impact?
Yeah, I think that, again, that comes down to what's your purpose in life. Also, Karl, I think that there's addressing what makes you happy, what gives you joy, and that can come from doing very simple things that don't involve a lot of money and not necessarily a lot of time. And so, I think that what I try to do here, and this is really a habit change, is to help people find an activity that they enjoy, and then a whole lot of other life shifts are going to come with that, including how they deal with money and how they spend money.
Is it your experience, Hugh, that when you meet clients, that the vast majority of them don't understand and don't know what their purpose is in life?
That would be many people. I think that's changing in the sense that there has been over the last 20 years since I really went down this path, there has been more people seeking to find what their meaning is. And, meaning doesn't just come from one Saturday morning reflection. I've now got a new meaning. It involves a little bit of reflection time, talking to people. But I think we're going in society now. There's a bit more openness and acceptance towards this, but we've still got a long way to go.
What impact does a business leader's behaviour towards money have on the employees within their own organisation?
That's a really good question and sort of a big one. And you think about it, the CEO certainly is a dominant influence on their company. They're the one that appoint the leadership teams around them. They're the ones that are going to set the culture, define the culture. And if they're a walk-in CEO that's taking over from a founder, that's a high risk to the culture. But the culture gets defined at the top, let's put it that way. And the business decisions of the company are going to reflect the culture, but and drive the culture. But at the end of the day, every business decision is wrapped up in money. So the leader's money attitudes are wrapped up in the business decisions that they make, and so they run together. That's why how the leadership team views money in terms of risk-taking, innovation, prudence, managing company resources, responsibly or being resourceful with it, are all big influences of then what happens in the company, because then that flows through to how people are treated in the company, how productivity is managed, performance is managed, people are rewarded for performance. So money, the energy of money and person's money attitudes is all through a company, and it comes from the top.
So talk to us about the system which you have developed to enable your clients to become financially resilient.
We have developed a unique behavioural platform. So we have people, we do it two ways now. People can go in online, spend 10 or so minutes, complete our very carefully structured assessment. It's quite unique what we've built, which reveals their talents, but also how they deal with money, what their money attitudes are, and then from that, that's going to shape the person's direction in life, the types of decisions they'll make. But we can also do this, Karl, through AI now. So we've built a system we call the DNA digital scan, where we can, through a series of AI prompts, have our assessment completed. It doesn't, to produce those insights, it doesn't work at the same level of accuracy as a person doing it themselves, but that's what we do. And then, in terms of then taking that and looking at a leadership team, the leadership team wants to work with us. We would have them do the full assessment, but I also do a lot of work for investors in companies, and they want to get a read on the company they might invest in. Then we would apply the digital scan to it, and we can then start to see how that company is going to financially perform because of the behaviour.
And are your clients coming to DNA Behaviour to become wealthier, or to address some unhealthy money behaviours that they've become aware of?
As far as the individual clients, they're not coming to directly to be wealthier. It's more about they're coming to us for greater self-understanding, to address blind spots in a sense so that they can make better decisions. And you hope that by making better decisions, the outworking of that will be increased wealth. And I think it's the same in a company. You know, the companies are coming to us to build a better culture, build better employee and client engagement, and you hope that if you do that, then the company performance is going to increase. So at the end of the day, financial performance and creating financial value are important outcomes, but they're not the someone doesn't come and say to us, yeah, I want to make $1 million in the next 3 years and expect our tool to be the magic wand that does that. People come to us at buying into a process to be better equipped as humans to make the decisions they need to make, to manage their energy better, that will at some point unleash that growth.
And earlier you mentioned the term money energy. What is that? And are there any red flags that you'd be looking for during that exercise?
You know, money energy is really addressing the fact that in people's minds, money is there all the time, whether it's in their waking moments of the day, the 16 hours or so that they are awake. Money is often in people's thoughts, but the thoughts that people take to sleep with them are also getting processed. So if you have negative thoughts about money, they're probably getting processed and manifested into your life. So what we're trying to do there is get people to build a positive mindset about money and have the right relationship with it, like I was alluding to before, that's centered on their purpose, and to develop a more constructive approach to how they deal with it.
And how do you measure money energy?
We actually have a formula for it that's really sort of based on quantum physics and Einstein's laws of energy. So we can actually measure it, and we've built our systems that if the assessments that we have are completed, then we will know where somebody's level of money energy is and what corrective steps they're going to need to take to boost it.
And from a business leader's perspective, what is an exponential mindset and why is it so important in business?
You know, I think this is a very relevant topic today. You know, a lot of business leaders, certainly the CFOs in companies doing budgets, people think of growth in a very linear way. Okay, we're going to grow the business at 10% a year or 20% a year. In the environment we live in today, I think those numbers are out the door. It might work for some businesses for a few years, but with technology, these businesses out there are going to grow, and they're also going to fail at with alarming speeds. And I think that what I talk about in making a quantum leap is that if you set your business up for growth, you unlock all of the business impediments. You then build the right relationships, you've got the right product, you can have growth for a lot of years that just blow apart the Moore's law of sort of doubling every 18 months or 2 years. You can go a lot further than that, but it's normally going to come from a relationship. In a business, it's going to come from a relationship that the CEO or the leadership team build. You can go back to Microsoft. They built a key relationship with IBM in 1981. That allowed that company to make a quantum leap. And that's why Microsoft's here today. All of the companies do that. Apple made a quantum leap when they brought out the iPad and then the iPhone. Right? That's when its leap came. So, that's how these things work. But there's a lot that goes into it to allow that to happen. But you've got to be thinking it's possible.
And I'd like to hear about the BSI tech platform and how it can help its users to enhance decision-making and relationships with money.
Our platform, which is the BSI technology, is got a plethora of insights in there that help people to see themselves through their strengths, to see their blind spots, and if you wanted to do the work, that then becomes the platform for changing your decision making, to make decisions that are more in sync with your energy. But also it helps you understand other people and building the right relationships, and that's something that's also very important for a business. To know the behaviour of all of your clients. Like, that's something that we do, is that, helping, for example, financial services firms not only understand the behaviour of their team, but all of their clients, to personalise the experience. That deepens the engagement that's there in the relationship, leads to higher stickiness factor, more referrals, and that's what unleashes the growth.
Can this platform be deployed to improve other non-financial aspects of a person's life?
Yeah, so half the insights that we measure are around what a person's talents are. So what roles could they work in? Would be a key one. What careers they should have. So, that's a very key area to this and to building a person's future.
And Hugh, finally, what money management tips can you share with our listeners this morning?
I always say to everybody that spending money and the rate at which you spend money is probably the biggest issue for most people. And if you don't have enough money, that's probably going to lead you to taking risks that you wouldn't otherwise take. And it might lead you to working longer or doing something, building a life that you don't want. You could become a prisoner to debt. So I think that managing spending is something very important. But also on the other side, like I alluded to with one of the high net worth stories, having a lot of money and not spending any of it to build a quality life and to grow your life and yourself as a human is also a mistake.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Hugh Massie from DNA Behaviour, and Hugh's perspectives will absolutely provide us with more than a penny for our thoughts when it comes to money.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.